Good morning and welcome to the S&H Farm Supply High School Highlights Show here on Jock 98.7 ESPN Radio. Guy Newcomb, the Scoreboard Guy, alongside for the next 2 hours. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. This segment brought to you by Great Southern Bank. Great Southern Bank with more than 100 locations in 6 states. Great Southern Bank, they care as much about your money as you do. Member FDIC. And continuing here with kind of a dual part interview, but we're going to lead off with the hashtag Next50, and the newest member to that is Lamar standout Jerrod Beshore. And Coach Beshore, welcome to the show today.
Hey guys, good to be here.
And we will get to the second part of this interview because Jerrod is taking a head coaching position back at home, but wanted to kind of start out a little bit about with the hashtag Next50 and go back to the high school career a little bit. And a standout, a 3-time first-team All-State, 4-time All-State as an athlete. And going back, what are your fondest memories, really, of that high school run? Obviously, your last 3 years to win the state title, to go 41-4 over that stretch. What are some things that stand out to you, Coach?
There's a lot of big-time memories you have when you think back. I think about, the starting out as a freshman and got lucky enough to get on the field and have some success for Coach Bailey. And then just having kind of that playoff run, getting to the semifinals, which at that time was the farthest that Lamar had ever gone. That was the best season Lamar had ever had up to that point. And so I think we won about 10 games that year and made it to the semis. And, I got a chance to make some big plays against some good teams, and that was a blast. But then it got better because we continue on and end up winning 3 state titles. So each state title was obviously a fond memory, and each one's just a little different in how it kind of sits with me as far as we went there the first time, and it was it's kind of new. Everyone was hyped up that we even made it, and we ended up running away with the championship. And I was blessed to get to score a couple touchdowns alongside a few of my other teammates that were pretty good ball carriers too. That was a great memory to bring Lamar their first state title in anything, any team's state title. So that one. The second one was just as sweet because we had to overcome a lot of adversity that season with injuries and kind of people counting us out, thinking that we weren't the same team that won the state title the year before. And then obviously going out as a senior with a state title win with all my buddies that I'd kind of grown up with was extremely special. So, each one of those years was different, but each one was special and fond in its own way. I was extremely blessed to get to play with some great football players. I just happened to be one of them with one of the guys at Lamar. We had a ton. I mean, you can go down the list how many college football players and all-state players we had, and then obviously getting to be coached by Scott Bailey, which he's a Hall of Fame coach. It was extremely special, and I'm blessed to be able to have been a part of all of that. So it's tough to point out a single memory. It was all special. It was just a lot of fun those 4 years for sure.
Now, Coach Beshore, you go back to your 8th grade year, and Lamar had kind of struggled at that decade previous to your 8th grade year. Made a little run there after the Big 8 conference, not having a lot of success. At what point do you think your teammates and the community really kind of started buying in? Was it that season, your 8th grade year? And obviously you're 12, 13 years old at that time, but your parents are around. You've got the community. Those Big 8 football, any town you go to in the Big 8, the community really backs their football program. When did you kind of start feeling like everybody's bought in and it could be something, it could be a lot of fun?
Yeah, and everyone talks about Coach Bailey coming in and revitalizing the program. Coach Bailey came in 2006, and he had a really good senior class. It was, one of my teammates, Levi Peterson, his older brother was in that class. They had a bunch of other slew of athletes, and they had a good run. They went to the quarterfinals that year, won, I think, 8 or 9 ball games. I think it was 8. And they had a good run. Well, that following season, the wheels fell off, and that was the Ofer year. That's what the year everyone talks about. The bottom, Coach Bailey says that he's coached probably the best Lamar football team ever, and also the worst. It was a tough year for the team and for the community. I mean, that was O'Sullivan Industries had just went out in town, went out of business, and that was a huge business in town that supplied a lot of jobs to the community. So, at that point in time, the community was down. The community was low. Morale was low. And I was a little kid, and I still remember that. It was I didn't realize at the time how big it was, but looking back, it was a big deal. It was a problem in Lamar, Missouri. But I would have said that, you talk about the year that Lamar bought into football, I would have said it would have been that next year, that 08 season. So the year before this first semifinal run that you're talking about, the year before that, Coach Bailey, that's when he brought in the spin offense. That's when they made a little bit of a run. They ended up winning the district title. They didn't go to the quarterfinals, I don't believe. That was back in the old playoff format, and I believe they lost in the sectional game to Warsaw. But it was a very successful season. Went like 7-6, something like that. Had a winning record, district championship, and I was in junior high at the time, and at that point, I saw the community and parents and everyone kind of buying into the program of what Coach Bailey was building, and it was special at that time. Us in the junior high, we were winning ball games, so everyone was kind of seeing that the future is bright, and if we buy in now and sell out and give everything we got, support the program, support the players, support the parents, support the coaches, all of that we could have something special, and looking back at the time, and you talk to anybody, any of the parents or anything, they're thinking, well, maybe we'll get a state title out of this, out of all this. Well, come back the next year, and like you said, that year was a rough year in the Big 8, that 09 year. Had some really good players for the Lamar team, but they just ran into some really good teams in the Big 8. It was an up year in the Big 8, and they only won one ball game in the Big 8. They only beat East Newton, went about 1-8 or 1-7, and going into districts. So they went into districts, got finally back into Class 2, and then made a little run and went all the way to the semifinals. Beat Caleb Schafitzel's Fairgrove team. Of course, Caleb was a crazy good player. I got to be with him a little bit at Missouri State, and he was a stud in high school too. So they beat some good teams, and they just got hot at the right time. And playing that Class 2 competition was a little bit better than playing some of the Big 8 schools. And so that year was definitely everyone was in, but the year before I would have said is the year that people started to buy in and started to believe a little bit. Obviously, when you take a team to the semifinals, and that's the farthest that a Lamar team's ever been in the playoffs, people are really bought in then. Heck, we were at the semifinal game was in Lamar. I remember being in the stands with my chest painted. I was the G in Tigers with all my buddies when we body painted ourselves. So, it was special to see that turnaround and see that click. So I would have said probably the 08 season is when people started to buy in. 09, it was solidified. We're all in. This football program's for real.
And going in through your senior year, I believe it was an impressive run. I mean, unprecedented run through the state championship. What stands out about your senior year en route to the third consecutive state championship? You got to play El Dorado Springs, which was a 63-6 game. Then you played Warsaw 84-6, and then 72-0 over Ash Grove, and then 35-7 over Lutheran North, and then you get Lawson in the state championship game. What about your senior year? Because I don't believe you won the conference that year.
No, we
win the state championship going away.
To answer the conference question, we ended up losing on the hitch and pitch play to Carl Junction. That was a really good Carl Junction team, and we had them there at the end. We just didn't defend one play, and of course, us Lamar people, we can come up with any excuse in the book why we didn't win that ball game. But the fact of the matter is that we didn't win the ball game, so we didn't win the conference. But we used that loss to kind of motivate ourselves throughout the rest of the season. And yes, you named off the scores. It wasn't even close in the playoffs when we got into the Class 2 playoffs. As far as that year, we came off my sophomore season. We won the state title, the first one. Everyone was big, everyone was happy. Second year, people really didn't expect us to answer. We came back and won it again after some adversity. My senior year was the year of probably the first year of unprecedented expectations on Lamar football. Everyone expected us to win every single ball game. The community expected us to score on every single play, because we had a lot of good returning players. And so the expectations were tough to meet. So I think by the time we got to the end of the season, we were just competing with ourselves more than anything. And I say that, we were competing with Coach Bailey. Coach Bailey I remember that last 2 weeks, the semifinals and the state championship week in practice, I think we ran more, we call them expresses at Lamar, running around all 3 practice fields. I think we ran more of those than we did my entire 4 years of high school. He may have been making stuff up to make us run. It was just we had to find things to motivate us, and we did. We found them, but it's tough when you knew that you were probably going to win, and you were probably going to win big, to still stay on task, still stay focused, still stay detailed, and play the best potential football game that we could play. So Coach Bailey, hats off to him. Obviously, he's a great coach, but he's also a great motivator and great technician on how to get kids to play at their best potential. And he did that for us because, as you said, you read off the scores. It was a blowouts in every single ball game, and that's how it should have been. And so, who knows? It may have not have been like that had we not been self-motivated and racing against time and against ourselves versus an opponent. So that's probably, for my senior season, that year, that team, that's probably sums it up pretty good on how that championship run went.
Visiting with the new head football coach at Lamar High School, Jerrod Beshore, as part of the hashtag Next50, standout defensive back and running back, who obviously played a key role in Lamar's 3 consecutive state championships, 4-time All-State selection, 3 times first-team All-State, 41-4 over his last 3 seasons. Your senior year, you get 118 tackles, 7 interceptions, and rushed for 1,458 yards and 26 touchdowns. And then you make the decision to attend Missouri State University. What was that process like, and why that decision?
Well, so recruiting-wise, we had a lot of kids in my class that were getting looked at for college football. We had the Bailey twins, who were freaks. We had Levi Peterson, our quarterback, who was a stud runner, could also throw the ball around a little bit, was a big-bodied kid, good athlete. We had Landon Compton, who was he was not at his full potential at that point. He was a linebacker, safety hybrid type, but he was 6'3" and could tackle anybody. Probably the best tackler on our team. And we had a couple other guys, J.T. Tucker, Mark Bartlett, Jimmy Quitzer, other guys that were getting looked at schools as well. And so it was kind of weird because we were kind of all getting recruited at the same time, trying to compete with each other kind of. Sam got an offer from Mizzou. Ben was getting looked at by Missouri State and Southern Illinois. And so it was a kind of weird to, go through that process knowing that your buddies right next to you getting offers left and right. So, we go through the entire football season of my senior year, and I hadn't got a scholarship offer yet. And we're kind of thinking, what's going on? What's happening? Finally, at the end of the season, after the state championship game, Central Missouri, there at Warrensburg, got interested. And a few other schools started showing up a little bit. Pitt State finally started showing up shortly after. And then Missouri State, which was kind of the school I wanted to go to from the get-go because it was close to home and it's a Division I school, FCS school. Big school in a really good football conference is close to home. To me, that was the dream school to go to. But they hadn't shown much interest up to that point. So, I'm sitting there thinking, it's probably going to be Pitt State or Central Missouri. And, we're in basketball season. I'm playing basketball there at Lamar. And, Coach Coughlin down at Missouri State, he's now at Arkansas State coaching O-line. But he was the recruiting coordinator for our area for Terry Allen. And he texts me up and says, "Hey, where are you playing basketball at tonight?" And I said, "Seneca, Missouri." And he goes, "Well, I'm in Tulsa. I'll be there tonight." Well, he shows up to Tulsa, shows up to Seneca, at the gym at Seneca there, and watches us play basketball. And from there on out, he was hitting me up left and right, checking in, and we got a visit scheduled. And I kind of knew from that point on that was, as soon as they offered anything, that was the school I was going to go to. I don't know why. It was a gut feeling. It was just the school I always had my eyes on. So, I had known that they had not won a bunch of football games as of late. The program was kind of down, and and in my opinion, at that point, I was like, I was just a part of the build-up of the Lamar team. What's wrong with me going and trying to help build up a Missouri State team? So, they ended up offering. I was Terry Allen's last recruiting class, and we had a good recruiting class. We all came in, and and then we just kind of got going from there. So that's how that process all happened. But again, like I said, I go back. It was kind of funny and also kind of weird. Having all your buddies getting recruited too, and you're sitting back and kind of seeing where you stand next to everybody. But now the recruiting process is different, man. It's a different deal, and anybody that's been through it knows that. So, but that's how I ended up at a Bear and at Springfield.
Well, since you've graduated, you've got a degree in coaching, maybe physical education. I'm not sure what your degree is.
Yes, yep, phys ed. Yep.
And what's it been like since your graduation, and what led you back to Lamar?
Well, so you kind of start how I got out of coming out of Springfield. It actually starts while I was still there. When I was playing for the Bears, I had to take a class where we had to take a coaching practicum. So we had to, find a team, a sports team, a school in the Springfield area to, kind of help coach. And it was like, it wasn't student teaching, but it was kind of like student coaching, I guess. You just had to help them out and get like 30 hours or whatever it was. And so, went up to one of our coaches, Coach Coffin actually is who it was, and he got me set up with Coach Anthony Hayes at Parkview, who was at Parkview at the time, of course. Guy, he's at Branson right now, and so I got hooked up with Coach Hayes at Parkview, went down there, helped him a little bit out during that season. I think that was my sophomore year. It was Dylan Cole's senior year. Dylan was still playing with us. So in my sophomore year at Missouri State, got to go down there and help him at Parkview, and from then on out, he always stayed in touch with me. He always said, "Hey, I know you're going into PE. As soon as you start student teaching, let me know. I'm trying to try to get you to student teach with us." Well, Coach Hayes ended up getting the job at Branson, and 2 years later, I'm looking for places to student teach, and stayed in touch with Coach Hayes, and he got me a student teaching gig down at Branson. So student taught at Branson, helped out in the weight room and in the PE classroom, and then actually they didn't have any PE openings, and they wanted me to get hired on there as a teacher and coach. Well, I got certified in biology and general science, so got certified there, and then they hired me on as a biology teacher. So this last year, I was at Branson teaching science, which was something very new, something I didn't go to college for, but it was a fun experience because you just get to see a different side of things. You get to be a classroom teacher instead of in the gym all the time. So that was a good thing for me, and I'll always be grateful to Branson and Coach Hayes for what they did for me. They did a lot for me. Some great people down there, great people at Branson, and it was a tough decision to leave, but getting the opportunity to apply for the head coaching job at Lamar when Coach Bailey stepped down, and getting to take over, your hometown team, one of the top perennial programs in the state, it was, it kind of was a no-brainer. It was something that had to be. I would have been silly to pass that opportunity up, or at least not try to get it. So we threw my name in the hat, and before I knew it, we was accepting the job to be the head football coach at Lamar.
Now, Jerrod, you're obviously a young coach, and we're visiting with Coach Jerrod Beshore, new head coach at Lamar. This segment brought to you by Doak Propane. For all your propane needs, see the folks at Doak. But, Coach, relatively at the beginning, well, no, you're not. You are at the beginning of your head coaching career. Who are some guys really that you would consider your mentors, that you look back and maybe steal something from, or really influenced you? And it could be Scott Bailey. It could be, obviously, maybe even family members Who are some of those folks really that were key influencers in your coaching career?
Well, I mean, there's some obvious ones. You always, when you're a player and when you're a coach in football, the guys that's the head coach that you coach for, you play for, is always a guy you look up to and always a guy you steal stuff from. So, I mean, Scott Bailey obviously is one of them. He did everything that I get from him at Lamar. I mean, he's still helping me out to this day at Lamar. I can shoot him a text. Hey, what do I got to do on this? If this needs to happen, who do I need to get into contact with? So on and so forth. He's great about that, and he's a great mentor, and has helped me out a ton as far as adapting into a head coach. Coach Anthony Hayes down at Branson, another huge influence on me. Coach Hayes is a great man and a man of faith, and really shows his love for his players and his coaches, and so I learned a lot on how to treat other people from him and how to also run a program. Because he's been doing it a while and he's had a lot of success at the places he's been at. Coach Dave Steckel at Missouri State is a big one I steal a lot from. Still a lot of he's always good for a good quotation or two. So I've stolen a lot from him and how he built our program there at Missouri State on work and accountability and discipline. So those three are the big probably coaching influences that I have. As far as being a head coach, those are the three head coaches that I played for and coached for. Probably the outside of that, the biggest one is my own father, Jeff Beshore. My dad, he was on staff there at Lamar when I played, and he's just been a coach my entire life. He was the head track coach at Lamar and won a few district championships there. He was on a staff up at Cass Midway, Class 1 school that had a lot of success back in the 90s. And, he's just an all-around coach and coached every sport, coached me through life. And he was the reason I got into education. And he kind of told me not to begin with. He was like, I don't know if you want to do this. And I'm like, well, I've seen you do it, and I wouldn't mind being like you when I grow up, so why can't I do it? So he's probably the biggest, especially outside of like coaches that I've played for and coached for, that he was obviously a great father to me, but he's also a great coach to me, and has coached me through life and in all circumstances. So those are the big influences and big mentors that I've had so far, for sure.
Coach Beshore, if you're 25, 24, 25.
Yes, sir.
What if you could go back and tell that 12-year-old Jerrod Beshore sitting in that stands with that G painted on his stomach, what advice would you give a young Jerrod Beshore?
Probably the first piece of advice I give is that don't hold back whatsoever in anything that you do. Show up every day, work hard, do not hold anything back, don't get comfortable, do not get complacent, because it's going to make you a better man and a better athlete and a better future husband, coach on the other end of it. And it's just the little things that, and I was always a kid that worked hard and did the right things and, made good grades and all those things, so I don't have any regrets as far as like macro aspects, but just the little things that bother you, little mistakes, little bonehead decisions I made when I was younger, I'll give you a good example. I did not play basketball my junior year in high school. So and I tell my players this all the time, especially guys that are on the fence on whether they want to play football or not, or any sport, for that matter. I tell them basketball had really no effect on how I became as an athlete or a football player, as far as, yes, I played basketball and it probably made me a better athlete, but me not playing my junior year really probably didn't have that big of an effect on me. I still had success. I still did this. I still did that. But it still bugs me to this day that I didn't play. And I don't know why. I can't name exactly what it is, but it bugs me. And I think it's just because I held back. I didn't give it everything I had. For that moment in my life, I didn't try to be the best at everything. Instead of, I laxed up. I was like, I'll just lift and try to get better for football. No, I could have helped the team. I could have been a good player for Coach Braden at that point, and I held back. And so that's probably my biggest regret. and also probably my biggest piece of advice for a young Jerrod Beshore. But everyone has those little things, and it's little, but even the little things bug you sometimes. So that's probably the biggest piece of advice. Don't hold back. Don't get comfortable. Don't get complacent. It's going to make you better on the other end of it.
And Coach, and again, we're visiting with Jerrod Beshore, new head coach at Lamar High School. What are your days like now? How much opportunities or how many opportunities you get to work out with your kids? How often you get to see your players? And, I know there's been a huge spike, down in that Southwest Missouri area. What does your day look like?
Well, and you said it. Luckily, all the cases and the spikes been kind of in the Joplin area, and yes, we're close to Joplin, but we're in Barton County and not Jasper County. And Barton County has had a little bit of an increase, but it hasn't been quite the spike that they've seen down in Jasper County. So, it's right now we're getting to work out 3 days a week in the weight room, and we have to split up in small groups to do so. We have social distancing measures put in place. We clean and sanitize all equipment after each station. I got 3 stations in small groups, and we just rotate around. Okay, we go keep the same kids with same kids, clean everything between each rotation, and make sure that we're kind of keeping distance between each other as well. So we're getting to do that 3 days a week. Hopefully that continues, and hopefully we get to do more at some point. July is obviously going to be more involved because we've got team camps and summer camps scheduled, and so I'm hoping that sticks. But yeah, that's what we've been doing right now. Like today, we worked out this morning, and we went and did a community cleanup fundraiser, and that went really well. And so, I've been pretty happy with what I've seen and the work ethic and everything. But the big thing was, like you said, just even getting to be around the kids, because you'd have talked to me in March or April, I would have said, I don't know if I'm going to even get to see these kids this summer. So it's been exciting. It's been fun to actually get over there and get to work with the kids.
You bet. Well, Coach, I certainly appreciate you being generous with your time. And again, on behalf of Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, Played Against Sports, and Great Southern Bank, congratulations for being named as one of the hashtag Next 50 Greatest Athletes in Southwest Missouri, and congratulations on being able to go home and coach your high school football team. And I'm looking forward to visiting with you during the season.
Absolutely, Guy. I appreciate it. Appreciate you having me on, and appreciate you all the things you do for us and the sports community in Southwest Missouri. It's awesome what you guys do.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, Jerrod. Hey, we're going to step away, take a quick time out here on ESPN Radio Jock 98.7. We'll be back after these messages from Jock 98.7.